Michael Russo from The Athletic. He covers the Minnesota Wild. Really appreciate you making some time for us today to talk about the 8-1-2 Minnesota Wild. They're on a 3-game heater. They got the OT win over the Leafs to wrap up their weekend. And when you look at this start to the year, I guess where I want to begin with this is what's been the most surprising factor that's contributed to this hot start in your eyes?
I mean, probably Philip Gustafsson. Last year was not, as Frank said a couple of minutes ago, sometimes the best trades you make are the ones that you don't. Philip Gustafsson was on his way out this offseason, and there are probably a lot of GMs out there that are kicking themselves for not biting. And Bill Guerin is probably thankful that he didn't make one move that was potentially on the table with Columbus. And here we are, and he is leading the league in goals against average, third in save percentage, and he's just been absolutely unbelievable. Now, the Wild are defending really, really well. And if you look at the analytics, it looks like that this is something that's extremely sustainable. Jack Capuano's come in and some revamps to their defensive zone structure, and so far so good. And it's really making Philip in a position where he's just got to make the 2 or 3 big saves a night. And so far he's doing a tremendous job. And so for him to look even better than he did 2 years ago when he had the second best save percentage and second best goals against average to Linus Ullmark the year that he won the Vezina, this says something about it's a large credit going to him for how they're playing.
It's interesting that you didn't say Kirill Kaprizov and the incredible start that he's had. His streak was, of course, his streak was broken last night against the Leafs, his point streak. But my question would be, as well as Kaprizov has played, and obviously he's someone that helps drag this team into the fight, but 41 goals scored in 11 games. If Kaprizov quiets down a little bit, is the rest of the offense, can that pick him up? Because you've seen some really good starts from Eriksson Ek, for instance, and obviously Boldy's a really good player and he's played well to start. But can this offense play at this pace? Is that part sustainable?
That is the one area that if you look at the analytics, there's a concern. And, I'm really concerned about the second line right now because at even strength, they have not been great. They've been, underachieving in terms of their expectations. A lot of it has to do with Marcus Johansson on the left side, and this is very highly predictable. He had a terrible year last year, and here we are 11 games into the season. He's played 10 of them, and in his last 9, playing with Boldy and Eriksson Ek, he has managed 1 goal and 0 assists. That's almost hard to believe. And so if Kaprizov slows down, you just got to wonder what they potentially could do. There were a couple shifts last night where Eriksson Ek played with Kaprizov, and you do have to wonder if maybe at some point you flip Eriksson Ek and Rossi, and maybe that'll do something because Rossi has played well with Boldy. The third and fourth lines have not produced up to expectations, but Goudreau's been better, and Hartman's been hurt for a lot of the year, but he's back and scored another goal last night. He has 3 goals in 6 games. So if Hartman starts to look like the player that he did when he had 34 goals, especially, but he is a perennial 20-goal scorer. I think they should be fine on the third line. The fourth line is one that you'd like to see some more offense. Trennan has just done absolutely nothing offensively. So that is the concern, is that if Kaprizov slows down, does the depth of the scoring, allow this team to sustain their incredible start so far?
Jared Spurgeon has been back for 3 games now. Might sound like a funny question, but did the Wild learn how to play without him last year?
I mean, they went 4-1-1 without him when he was out of the lineup this year, and they didn't miss a beat. And that was with Brodin playing with Zach Bogosian, who was elevated from the third pair. And I think we all know at this point in his career he's not a second pair defenseman. So they have done a great job. A lot of this is because Middleton and Faber have been exceptional this year, especially Faber. He doesn't have the numbers of Cale Makar, but he's playing like a Norris Trophy type player. Obviously, for him to ever get into that conversation, he's probably going to need to up the offense, but he has been so good defensively. And Jake Middleton, who had at times was up and down last year, he's been outstanding so far. He had a couple blips of the start of the season, and he's just been great. So I think that's part of it. And now Spurgeon has come back, and last night we saw, 2 assists on both their goals. And then in overtime has the, back check where he looked like a 21-year-old Jared Spurgeon again, not a 34-year-old. And he just flies up the ice and outraces Max Domi to a loose puck. And then even more impressively in one motion turns and headmans a puck to Rossi for the Boldy winner. So, they are definitely playing well from a defenseman standpoint this year.
Do you think there's any interest in the Wild front office in terms of maybe making a move to improve this team? It seems like of all the trade conversations to start, and Mike, you're more on top of it than anyone. Minnesota might actually be one of those teams that's kind of in the mix to maybe do something.
Yeah, I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, their goal right now is to not get into LTIR. That's why Wallstedt was sent down, why Ogren's down, Hunt's down. They're trying at home to really lower their cap, so they're constantly accruing so they could build something toward the deadline and maybe go make a move, whether that's for a big defenseman or to go out and get a scorer. I still think that they got to fix that second line, and I do think that they got to get one more forward. I said this to somebody yesterday. Especially if you could put that player with Eriksson and Boldy, I think would just go wonders for this team. There's a lot of teams out there that need defensemen. The Wild have an extra, if you consider, with Chisholm and Merrill, because they'd love to bring up Hunt and play him full time. But I don't see the Wild right now making a move on one of their defensemen just because of the Jared Spurgeon situation being something that could be a constant thing all year long that they're going to have to monitor to make sure that he doesn't leave the lineup. So, right now I think that they're standing pat, but there's no doubt. I mean, I'm always, especially this time of year, it just seems like Bill Guerin every November makes some sort of move, whether it's, grabbing Ian Cole the one year for Greg Patterin, or grabbing last year's Zach Bogosian and shipping Kalen Addison on his way out. There's always that one move in November, but I think it's probably a little too early because for a forward, I think they'd like to really accrue some cap space and go get an impact one as we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah, we had a Wild fan in our chat right now doing the little dot connection of, wait, you guys were just talking about Brock Nelson. He shoots left. That would look pretty nice in that top six. But
I could tell you that the Wild love Brock Nelson. It would not shock me as a free agent if they went after him. One of the Brocks, Brock Besser, Brock Nelson, one of them, if they're available. But there is a lot of respect in the Wild front office for Brock Nelson between Guerin, Chris Kelleher, John Hines loves him. So that's always a possibility.
Yeah. I think our Anthony DeMarco is also, he thinks the Wild might be poking around a little bit on some of the Flyers' younger forwards that they've got in their lineup. So that would be interesting as well. Morgan Frost, maybe an opportunity. You look at some of the other guys that they have there. Bobby Brink, Joel Farabee. You think age scheme and where the Wild are going, that could certainly connect a dot as well.
I remember a couple of years ago, the Wild didn't draft Brink, and there were a lot of Wild fans pretty disappointed. So he might make sense.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, I'm looking at Puckpedia right now. Projected deadline cap space. If all things stay the same, and I know injuries always throw a wrench in that, but right now it could get as high as $10 million for the Wild.
And that will change. A lot of it's because they're right now. They don't even know if they have they have one extra guy on their lineup. So, when we go on the road trip in a couple days, they're obviously going to bring up a forward just as insurance. So it's going to fluctuate as they manipulate the roster when they're at home. But their one goal is to avoid what happened last year, guys, and that's get into LTIR where they just can't accrue all year long.
Michael Russo from The Athletic, really appreciate you giving us some time. Thanks, man.
Yep. See you guys.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.